Hello everyone. In this video we are going to continue in the plant evolutionary pathway, and we have discussed already the non-vascular plants and the seedless vascular plants. So the next step is discussing the seed plants. So as we have already mentioned, seed plants include two main groups, the Gymnosperms and the Angiosperms. So this will be the focus. First, we will give the general characteristics of seed plants. Then we will focus on the Gymnosperms in this video, but Angiosperms will be discussed in another video. So the evolution of seed plants, what are the main points to highlight in the evolution of seed plants? Obviously, the presence of seeds, but in addition to that, the adaptations or the evolution events to highlight include the reduced gametophytes, and as we said, the presence of seeds and the heterospory. So we're going to discuss this in more details in the next slides, but this is represented by the presence of Megasporangia and Microsporangia rather than having a bisexual gametophyte. Then the fourth adaptation is the presence of pollen. So the presence of pollen had a major impact on the ability of seed plants to disperse and to be able to colonize many parts of the land compared to the previous groups. So we will come to this and we will explain it in the next slides as well. Okay, so the first one is the reduction of the gametophyte. So as we said, gametophyte became reduced. It is now a microscopic structure in the seed plants, and they are retained in the sporophyte. And that had the advantage of protecting them from the radiation. Remember, gametophytes are the stage that will produce the gametes, and it is important to protect the gametes from the effect of UV radiation, because as we already discussed, this is a mutagenic factor. So to protect the DNA of the gametes from the UV is one of the advantages of the reduction of the gametophytes. Also, it is a way of protecting them from desiccation so they don't dry out. The second evolutionary event that happened in the seed plants is the evolution of seeds. And seeds are a protective structure that encloses the embryo. So we have the embryo here at the center of the seed. This embryo is surrounded by food supply. This food is coming from the female gametophyte tissues, and then that is also surrounded by a seed coat. So by doing that, the seed can remain dormant for months or years. So what will happen? The plant will form the seeds. If the seed will disperse to an area of unfavorable conditions, let's think about high temperature, for example, they can remain dormant till the winter months come. Or maybe if it is a dry condition, they can remain there till the conditions become humid and favorable, and so on. So they are really important in giving the plants more chances, giving the seed plants more chances to move to or colonize other parts of the land. Also, the ability of the embryo to get the food from the food resources that are already contained within the seed. This also gives the seed plants the ability to colonize different areas. So the embryo can start getting the food supply from the reservoir that is already contained within the seed without the need to depend on the soil for getting this food supply. So even if the seed is present in an area of unfavorable food supply, they can still use the resources within the seed itself. The third feature is that seed plants are heterosporos. And as we said earlier in the seedless vascular plants, so seedless vascular plants are homosporous. And what do we mean by that? We have bisexual spores. This bisexual spores gives rise to bisexual gametophyte. So the gametophyte is carrying the male and female gametes. They are all, or they are both, produced by the same gametophyte. The situation is different here in seed plants because we have what is called as Megasporangia. So this is the organ that will produce the megaspores, and this megaspores will give rise to the female gametophytes, which will develop later on into the egg. And we have Microsporangia. This Microsporangia will produce the microspores. This microspores will give rise to the male gametophytes or the sperms. So this feature of heterosporosity will be explained when we move on to the life cycle of seed plants. And the last feature to highlight here is the presence of pollen, or the dependence of pollen as a way of dispersal of the sperms. So as we said, we have megaspores and microspores. These microspores will develop into a pollen grain. So the male gametophyte in pollen wall, so something like that. So the male gametophyte, which will produce the sperm, will be enclosed in this pollen wall. So the sperms are not flagellated as before. The sperms now, they don't need water. They are not dependent on water for the dispersal, and they are even more protected by being enclosed in the pollen wall, allowing them to be dispersed or carried by the winds or insects for long distances. And as we said, the added advantage of being not dependent on the presence of water for transport and fertilization. So we already covered the thickened wall, which is rich in the sporopollen before, and now we have this, but the sperms are enclosed in this thickened sporopollen walls. So as we said, the seed plants can be divided into two major groups, the Gymnosperms and the Angiosperms. The Gymnosperms, they are called naked, or they characterized by having naked seeds, and this is the major difference between Gymnosperms and Angiosperms. So the Gymnosperms, they have naked seeds. They are not enclosed by ovaries, which will give rise to fruit, as we will see in Angiosperms. So in Angiosperms, the seeds are enclosed by ovaries, which will develop into the fruits, but in Gymnosperms we don't have that, so we call Gymnosperms to be characterized by naked seeds. So starting with the Gymnosperms, we will see that we have four phyla: the Cicadophyta, the Ginkgophyta, and the Genetophyta, and the Coniferophyta, which includes the conifers such as the pine, fir, and redwood. And in terms of the evolution, we discussed before that the seed plants are well suited than the non-vascular plants to drier conditions, and one of these seed plants is the Gymnosperms. So the Gymnosperms is also well suited to drier conditions than the non-vascular plants. So we covered the reasons for that. So now they have seeds. The seeds are protective. The seeds contain the food reservoir, allowing it to withstand, allowing it to include the embryo, which will withstand the unfavorable conditions. Number two, they are dispersed by pollen grain now. These pollen grain are protective structure. They are not dependent on the presence of water, so because of that they are more suited to drier conditions than the non-vascular plants. Seed plants include two major groups, the Gymnosperms and the Angiosperms, and if we will compare the dominance of the two groups, we'll find that the Angiosperms dominate most of the parts of the world, except in the northern latitudes, where the cone-bearing Gymnosperms, and more specifically the conifers, they dominate these northern latitudes.